Greetings, I'm NS2 Xenophon, and this is CAOS. Today I'll be playing the revised Tobruk scenario with one of our senior beta testers, Joe. If you'd be so kind as introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Joe, and I've been testing Chaos for a few years, and I'll be handling the Germans and Italians in today's scenario.
Yeah, so Joe will be commanding Axis forces. He's assuming the role of General Rommel on May 26, 1942. This is the Battle of Tobruk, famously a decisive Axis victory. I'll, of course, be commanding the forces of the British Commonwealth. We do have our work cut out for us. There's a reason the British lost this battle. The deployments could be a bit better. Their forces could be a bit better prepared, but you fight the army with what the army you have, not the army you want. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. We're then going to regroup in 1 hour for a debriefing and catch up then. So I'll see you in a bit.
Sounds good. Good luck, have fun.
Indeed. Okay, so I've already taken liberty of giving my first turn orders. There's a lot of movement to be done there, so I did that off screen. The general idea is we know that there's going to be a large Axis armored offensive through the southern flank, headed towards Bir Bayoud, and ultimately trying to cave in my flank and head towards Tobruk. So my general game plan is I'm going to bring the 1st Armored Division, British, into the gap east of Bir el Harmat, and the 7th Armored Division is going to cover the area northeast of Bir Bayoud around this dry riverbed, this Wadi region. We're going to anchor the flank with the 29th Infantry Brigade of the Indian Infantry Brigade, and we're going to be bringing in more forces as the battle progresses. So the general idea is we're going to have our armor screen in the south, and we're going to try to get the Axis armor to hit us east of Bir el Harmat, be unable to immediately break through, and then I want him to keep shifting his armor further to the flank in an effort to get around my flank, extending his lines of supply, extending his flanks, hopefully to create some kind of weakness that we can exploit and maybe blow out a section of his line, maybe get some encirclements. This is a very dangerous situation. Axis armor definitely has the upper hand in this scenario, but we're going to see how it works out. We obviously do have a formidable minefield defense, which protects our western shoulder, but looks can be deceiving. It is one very impressive minefield, but it can still be broken. It's not impenetrable, so we have to keep in mind as we fight that there will be attacks through these minefields. We're going to have to continue repulsing those as well. So the bulk of the action will be in the south, but do keep an eye on that minefield. So without further ado, I'm going to kick this off, and we're going to see what the first turn brings us. Oh, we seem to have lost an artillery unit, got pinned by air attack, and has unfortunately been caught. Let's see what else might get trapped. So, end of the first turn, or the beginning of the second turn, 49 enemy strength points destroyed for 100 loss. So let's take a look at those detailed losses. So we lost a good number, 34. So that's what, three and a half batteries, 25 pounders. That's an ouch. We lost about half a regiment of 2-pound anti-tank guns. Other losses are coming in trickles, mostly probably artillery and air attack. We did kill some German armor, some Italian armor. A smattering of things, nothing too serious. As first turn results go, not great, not terrible, to use a famous quote. So let's take a look at the overall situation. We have Axis artillery and air attacks basically across the front. I expect, here's a really, really harsh bombardment Bir Cherson that knocked out 15 squads or guns. This is going to get worse. He's going to hammer the northern flank because he will try to break through on the coastal highway. But in the south, where it really matters, let's see. The 4th Royal Horse Artillery was pinned and failed to evacuate. We're hopefully going to pull them out, but if they get killed, that would be very unfortunate. And over here, the 1st Regiment Royal Horse Artillery was in fact destroyed, which is probably where the bulk of our armor losses came from. So we're going to continue to try to pull back there. As you'll notice, he is trying to get... He's either screening his flank or he's trying to get these armored recon units around our southern flank. Knowing Joe, he's probably trying to get into the rear so he can interfere with our ground line of communication. So let's take a moment to spring into action here. So the 7th elements of 7th Armored Division successfully withdrew across the Wadi. So we are getting into position over here. We are bringing up the 9th Indian Infantry Brigade, which will help backfill this position. It will secure the junction between the 1st Armored Division and the 7th Armored Division's areas of responsibility. The 29th Brigade will begin to dig in. We're going to continue to hold Bir el Gobi for this turn, but I do expect to abandon this position. It's an airfield on the flank. I do expect to abandon it because in my current game plan, I don't see myself extending the force to hold it. I just want to waste his time there for a bit. And in the center, some of the most experienced troops the Allies have in this battle is the 1st Free French Brigade. Remarkable soldiers. They fought well historically, and they fight well in chaos. Unfortunately, they are deployed, as historically, in a series of minefields, and it's very hard to extract them. So we will be able to extract the 2nd Demi-Brigade Senegalese, which is a motorized brigade, but it's very doubtful that we'll be able to get the rest of the 1st Free French Brigade out, and we might be able to rescue them at a future point, but for the moment, they are trapped down there. In the meantime, let's continue to get the southern flank dressed up and ready for action. And as part of this, I will be getting artillery fire missions in here. I'll also be opening up some of these artillery regiments and taking out anti-tank batteries and sending them into the front. And I am bringing down the elements of the 2nd South African Division, who will act as my central reserve in the City Mufta region, sort of in the south center end of the line. They'll back up both the 1st Armored Division and ultimately the 50th Northumbrian Division, who are holding the City Mufta gap, which is likely to become a serious point of contention. So let's continue to get armored cars moving. It's going to get these infantry tank units. These are primarily Valentine equipped. Get them into concentration in case we need to mount local counterattacks. Okay, getting my medium guns in position as well. We want to get as much artillery support as we can on these elements of the 1st Armored Division because they are likely to take extensive German contact, and we want them to be as well supported as possible. We'll also throw some air support on there just to increase their odds even more. We'll do the same for elements of the 7th Armored Division. Okay, 9th Indian Brigade is moving. The 10th Indian Brigade and its attending Field Artillery Regiment will also proceed to move up. They're going to cover, ultimately they'll cover the east flank of the 7th Armored Division, and it'll take them about a turn and a half, though, to get into position. 4th Royal Tank Regiment will move up, which is also Valentine equipped. Will move up to help support that operation, and the 11th Indian Infantry Brigade is also coming up, so these units will concentrate between Bir el Gobi and Bir el Harmat. And it'll be a few more turns before we get any more serious reinforcements. So continue planning for what we have. Pull the 2nd Field Regiment Indian Artillery back. And 3rd Indian Motorized Brigade is primarily a carrier equipped unit. That's Indian pattern carriers. We're going to pull them off into the desert to the east, where they will serve as a screening force against German armored recon attempting to exploit into our extended flank. So, do a quick review of the front. Okay, they're doing fine. It'll probably be 2 more turns, I've had to guess, before we have to worry about serious contact on the Bir Zaydan front against the minefield. Actually, I want to redirect that artillery onto the 22nd. Continue moving various units in the rear into concentration so I can have ready reserve groups ready for breakthroughs. Put these armored cars in reserve. Armored cars are obviously not great for combined arms, but they get the job done if the opponent doesn't have good anti-tank, and a lot of these Italian infantry regiments, they have a lot of anti-tank guns, and they're not bad guns, but, we've got to have something, and our actual tanks are busy. Put the 42nd Royal Tank Regiment in reserve there. And now we're going to start sprinkling on the bombs. Keep the German armor busy wherever it's at. Actually, where is the German armor? So 5th Panzer Regiment was up here. Because if we watch the turn replay, we can watch them advance. So they move up. Move up here. Okay, so both German armored regiments are in concentration, currently out of our line of sight, but in concentration around this location. So we're going to drop some bombs on that. And we're going to mercilessly bomb the Axis artillery, because one of the points we can deal the most damage to the Axis is actually not killing their tanks, but destroying their artillery fire support. And speaking of bombs, let's get some bombs on this Axis artillery, primarily actually captured French guns in German service, which are on the northern road. Second DBS is withdrawing. Okay, I'm just doing a final check here, because obviously you're juggling a lot of units when you're doing this and you're also talking. So do a final check to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. Throw some fire support on this extended unit. I believe these are the Transvaal Scottish. Yeah, 1st Battalion Transvaal Scottish, 1st South African Brigade. Let's see, who's in here? Okay, yeah, right, that's 7th Armor. Get some artillery support on them. And in fact, let's actually break the 309th Anti-Tank Battery out and send it to reinforce the 29th Indian Infantry Brigade. I would like to have an infantry brigade to immediately backstop the 1st Armored Division, but that's not really currently available. That is likely where I'll send the 10th. Well, actually, no, 10th Infantry Brigade needs to be over here. I'll probably use 6th South African as an immediate reserve there, because I just want to have extra bodies, extra infantry to put in front of the Germans when they show up. Move this anti-aircraft across the Wadi. For those of you who maybe aren't quite as experienced in the CAOS system, anti-aircraft comes in different sort of elevation brackets. So, for instance, 40mm Bofors has a low anti-aircraft of 24, a medium of 12, and a high of 0. And the low and medium, rather medium and high anti-aircraft values spill over into adjacent hexes. So you don't actually need to keep all of your anti-aircraft like piled on top of your artillery. It can be adjacent. That's usually fine. So, Joe's turn is in. Let's get our recon orders in as well. And then let's kick this over and see what happens. Do one final check here. Move this 32nd Army Tank Brigade over a bit. I'll actually also pull some guns out of the line near Bir el Harmat, because I intend to move them around. They can still fire once they're outside of the wire, obviously. Put them in fortification. I'm going to take one squadron of armored cars, B Squadron, 6th South African Armored Car Regiment, send it to reinforce the 7th Gordon Highlanders. And I'll take the other squadron, which also has the regimental HQ, and throw them into the line with elements of the 150th Infantry Brigade. Pull the 25/26 battery of the 7th Medium back, use it to support Bir Zaydan, and let's do this. So we got Axis Armor coming up. Looks like he's going to primarily focus on the roads across the Wadi, or tracks rather across the Wadi, on the right shoulder. So again, another turn where the losses are very obviously not going to be in our favor. We expect that at this point. Sadly, the 4th Royal Horse Artillery Regiment did not escape, which is going to create something of an artillery problem on the southern shoulder. So let's continue moving the 3rd Indian Motorized Brigade across, a little further than that. Put the 1st King's Dragoon Guards rather, in skirmish order and fall them back 1 hex. Let's take a look at what German forces are immediately in front of us. So at the tracks across the Wadi, we have elements of the 15th Panzer Division, including its HQ and its... this is a conf group he's created out of its recon and its anti-tank. And another battle group... this is clever. So this is a battle group of 88s, of basically heavy flak, of pioneers, and of self-propelled light flak. So this is a please don't bomb me stack. Obviously we've got a Schutzen regiment, so that's the infantry. And then here's the heavy hitters. This is 8th Panzer Regiment, clocking in at a staggering 1,000 combat value. Crack tanks. This is one of the best. This is actually the best armored unit on this battlefield. Second being the 5th Panzer. So both his German armored units are in concentration. Let's just reflexively bomb them. There's another battalion of 88s in here, so bombers are going to get chewed up a bit, but we do need to get hits on those panzers. And then the 132nd Regiment of Armor, which is Italian, which should not be underestimated. Italian tankers actually fought very well at Gazala. sort of memes of history, we have the Italian army in 1942 in the desert actually performed reasonably well, all things considered. So let's get some more fire sport in on here because we know where he's coming. He's coming. He's gonna hit. Probably gonna club the second armor brigade stack pretty hard this turn. I expect that to take a significant beating. So we'll prepare to repel him there. But the question is with what? So let's get the 44th Royal Tank Regiment reattached to the 1st Army Tank Brigade, and we'll get them deployed as an immediate fire brigade against any breakthroughs. There was actually a minor skirmish, really, against the 7th Gordon Highlanders. And looks like, okay, another skirmish in this extended part near Bir Gef. So let me just quickly cycle through the orders in the north because these are actually pretty simple. Going to break off the anti-tank guns, the 258th anti-tank battery, and send it in to support these guys. And I'm going to break off the 452nd artillery battery, just 25 pounder equipped, and use it for fire support on them. And I'm going to break off C Squadron, 3rd South African Reconnaissance Battalion, use them for general combined arms support near Bir Fakrun. By putting them in a reserve order, they help all adjacent units there. Okay, for the moment, let's take a general overview of the situation. So, 2nd Demi Brigade Senegalese has escaped. Oh, we have a chance here. He has not garrisoned the southern approach out of Bir Hakim. This could be a trap, by the way. Experienced players do occasionally set a trap here, and our recon is not great, as in it's awful down there. But otherwise, I'm going to lose this unit anyway, so I'm going to try to escape into the desert and then try to run south and far. We might not make it. We might. We'll see what happens. But 2nd Demi Brigade is free. What I'm going to do then is... Okay, hold them in position. I'm going to swap out the 6th Gordon Highland and 288th anti-tank battery. I'm going to swap in the 2nd Demi Brigade Senegalese, which will provide motorized infantry support that can keep up with the 22nd Armored Brigade. And let's throw on some artillery support. Okay, that artillery's set. 9th Infantry Brigade Indian needs to start digging in. We'll deploy the 61st Light Anti-Aircraft for additional support. British anti-aircraft are not trained for anti-tank combat, but they're here, they'll do. And we'll deploy the 4th Armored Car Regiment. Actually, we'll keep them in reserve. 7th Medium Regiment goes into fire support on 7th Motorized Brigade. And we're just going to pile the artillery support on that unit. Okay, 10th Indian Brigade comes up. I'm going to use it to immediately backstop. I was going to use it for flank security east of Bir el Gobi, but at the moment I want to backstop the 7th Armored Division's position in case we get a breakthrough there. Continue bringing up the 11th Indian Brigade, bring them up to El Adem this turn. Bring the supply depot up around there. Bring 2nd South African Division HQ down near Knightsbridge. Yeah, if he hits the 2nd Armored Brigade with everything he's got, I have serious concerns about its longevity. So we're going to bring the 4th South African Brigade back, use them as a backstop. So effectively we're going to have most of the 2nd South African Division in direct support behind elements of the 1st Armored Division. That is going to leave our center a little weak, which in fairness may be his plan, but I would like to not get overrun by the German armor. And that is a very real concern. Okay, I'm going to create a battle group from the various elements of South African and anti-tank units, which I've grouped up from the various sort of defensive garrisons, and we're going to use them as a area reserve in the north. Get that fire mission plotted again. Pull the 4th Field Regiment South African Artillery out of the line so it stops getting barraged. Get support in there. Okay, what else is left to do? So we're reorganizing in the south. Get recon on that, get recon there, get recon in the far south. Additional air support on the 4th Armored Brigade, air support on the 22nd Armored Brigade. And let's see, let's bomb the 132nd Armored Regiment, let's bomb 132nd Artillery Regiment. And let's get some bombs on this Italian artillery, it's Italian Corps level artillery. Let's bomb the 8th Bersaglieri. And with our last 2 bombing missions, I think it's fairly doubtful that he's, even though we don't have recon on these sexes, it's probably pretty doubtful that he has moved those units, so let's hit them again. And that concludes our air missions for the turn. So while we wait for him to submit his turn, let's look around and see if there's anything I've missed. No, looking pretty good. In terms of longer term planning here, obviously the immediate threat is if he manages to break through the center, where we're concentrated. That would obviously be a major problem, because if he can just keep pushing that armor back and prevent us from reforming, he can grind us down through attrition. The other obvious concern is if he's feinting and if he wheels his Panzer regiments east and goes for Bir el Gobi next turn. Also possible. But for the moment, we're going to hold the current line, and we're going to see what develops. Okay, let's hit it. So, he's advanced, he has made contact. He is forced to retreat of at least 1 unit. Let's see. Okay, so bloody turn. Bloodier for us than for him, but we do have more men than he does. Lost 30 Crusaders, 20 Dingoes, 17 Grants. This was a bloody day, and German armor did not take huge losses. So let's take a look at the actual battle. Yeah, that was pretty bloody. So we pretty much failed to stop him there. 32 lost bombardment. That might actually be a record in CAOS. Quite a strong bombardment there. So we're going to be forced to withdraw the 2nd Armored Brigade. Fall back 1 hex. Okay, Italians are screening his flank. Yeah, so pretty straightforward attack here. He's attacking with 5th Panzer Regiment supported by the 104, and if I had to guess, the 8th Panzer Regiment's probably in reserve. Let's check the 8th Panzer Regiment, so they're reserving with them. Okay, so onwards and upwards. We'll start by getting bombs off on basically everything. Oh, okay, this turn we have far few bombing missions. Okay, that air attrition kicking in hard. So take a quick look around other sections of the line. So we repulsed an attack on Bir Kherson. Fairly bloody for him, but not that relevant in the long grand scheme of things. He did occupy Bir Hakeim this turn, obviously because we ran away. And this, gentlemen, is the Africa Corps supply depot that the French just ran into. Unfortunately, the French are low on supply, so they're not likely to be able to take it from an artillery regiment and for a divisional HQ supported by 90mm anti-aircraft guns. So, as appealing as that is, I'm just going to continue to go around and evade it. Okay, so yeah, back to the main event, which is how to contain the Axis breakthrough, or the developing breakthrough. They haven't broken through yet. Shuffle some more artillery over. Where are those infantry tanks? Because I remember I sent them somewhere. That's the 32nd Army Tank Brigade. Where's the 1st? Okay, well, I'll find them in a moment. First things first. Covering the eastern shoulder. So let's bring the 4th Royal Tank Regiment over. They'll be primary sort of combined arms armor support for the fighting near the Wadi. Sizing this spot actually up for a local counterattack. We might be able to do that. So what's down here? This is Sonderverband 288, who's an assortment of German specialists. So some actual commandos in there. But, you know, they're good troops, but there's not a lot of them. So his far southern flank is not strongly held at all, actually. So let's bring up 30 Corps Supply Depot a little bit, just behind the line. Push up the King's Dragoon Guards. I want him to see this unit because I want him to react to it. And let's actually put a bit of a local counterattack on the flank. Put the 10th Indian Brigade in reserve. Bring up, yeah, 3rd Indian Brigade comes up just to be a threat in being. Put fire support on from the Field Regiment. More fire support there. These guns go on the 9th. 4th Armored Car moves in to support the 9th for combined arms. 2nd Field Regiment Indian Artillery supports this operation. Let's throw air support onto that operation. So this turn he's going to... So our hope is that he moves up to fill in where the 2nd Armored Brigade will be retreating. So our hope is he moves in there, and then if we get lucky, we might be able to collapse his flank where the 15th Panzer Division HQ is located. And if that happens, then we'll be able to put him in an encirclement. We won't be able to hold him there long enough to kill him, but maybe to inflict some actual losses. Here's the 1st Army Tank Brigade. Okay, so 1st Army Tank Brigade moves up, assumes position co-located with 201st Guards Mech. Guards Motorized Brigade, I should say. I'm not playing Soviets, playing the British. Pull 4th South African Brigade back and relocate it where this artillery currently is to support the 2nd Armored Brigade as it withdraws. Let's get a strike on the 5th Panzer Regiment. Additional air support on 22nd Armored Brigade. I will possibly have to abandon this position this next turn. We'll see. Get some more artillery support on them. The Bir el Harmat position is very poorly held, but I'm currently banking on the minefields there to protect me. Let's get some armored cars in there simply to get the stacking value up to exert a zone of control. Let's actually live dangerously. We're going to shuffle another artillery field regiment out eastwards to support. And we're going to shuffle this one down to fill in the gap. Okay, get those guns firing. Armored cars go into reserve. 42nd Royal Tank Regiment goes into reserve. Okay. Get the Northern Fire missions plotted. Bring up 2nd Regiment Botha, which is actually an infantry battalion. Get them to sort of an immediate reserve position if needed. Going to pull the engineers out of the Bierfakroon box and out of the box to its west, so I can move them around for further construction purposes. Let's also get the 13 Corps engineers to actually have them start building an improved position on the railhead supply dump, because I may need to fight for that in the future. Okay, nothing going on in the rear I should be alarmed about. Let's get our usual recon ready. Okay, we've already got those 2 air supports down. Let's get a 3rd actually on the 9th Indian Brigade in case there's a breakthrough. 7th Medium Regiment resupports them. Take a quick look at Air Command, see how things are doing here. Not terribly. Spitfires need some rest. Get them on maintenance. You can actually now fully automate Air Command in this particular scenario because I've got some very specific things I want to be doing with my aircraft. I've got them on manual control, but Air Command is actually by default automated in historical scenarios. Because historical scenarios, anything involving the Allies at least, tends to have massive air orders of battle. Not so much here, but very evident in the Sicily scenarios. Okay, I think we are set. So we've got the armor in reserve in the center south. Obviously, there's still the deeply worrying fighting going on with the 5th and the 8th Panzer regiments, but that's just, comes with the territory. That's what happens when Rommel's in the house. Let's throw some additional support fire on 22nd Armored Brigade. Get the 2nd RHA firing on the 201st. Actually, let's move them northeast and fire. Nothing. Okay, I could actually pull the South African anti-aircraft up. Can and will pull it up to El Adem. Let's bring the 11th Indian Infantry Brigade up as a backstop on the right flank. And let's see what happens. Interesting. So, much better. Obviously, yes, we're still taking more losses than he is, but the difference in strength loss this turn was much more favorable. So, still a bunch of tanks lost. Scroll bar on it this time. We'll get to that in a moment. Unfortunately, the French are not currently escaping and may have to run even... Here's what I'll do. I will leave the anti-aircraft regiment, or battalion rather, as sacrifice, and I will run the rest of them even further west into the desert, and then we'll come back. These engineers are no doubt currently working on basically creating supply bridges through the minefields. He's currently breaching the minefield so he can bridge supply through. Let's take a look at the battlefield from the top. So, a fairly irrelevant skirmish in the far north, southwest Bir Sharsan. He, by the way, has pulled one of the German infantry regiments off that line. Interesting. A fairly relevant skirmish southwest of Bir Gef. Again, basically a skirmish southwest City Mufta. Another one southwest on Bir Zaydan. So this is just skirmish contact. He's just trying to keep units pinned there. Nothing serious, really. In the main event, however, okay, we actually managed to disengage 2nd Armored Brigade without incident, so that unit is free to move. And in the attack in the south, we actually inflicted some real casualties here. Took some losses too, but it was mostly anti-tank guns. And he got bombed, of course. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so this turn was fairly indecisive. Let's get some more recon on there. We're down to 1 recon mission, that's a problem. Means we need to do maintenance on that. Quickly get the air missions hammered out there. Bombers keep doing their thing. Okay, so let's get some more bombing going. Let's bomb the 132nd Regiment. Let's bomb 5th Panzer. Let's bomb 8th Panzer. He will likely reinforce his position, so there's probably not a whole lot of point. Oh, okay, now this is what we can do. We can try to kill the 605th Panzerjäger before it withdraws. So we'll hit them and retreat, because they currently don't have infantry support. There's no infantry support on there. There's no anti-tank. Oh, sorry, they are an anti-tank. There's no artillery support. We may actually be able to kill that unit. So let's see what we can do there. Yeah, French keep trying to withdraw. He has reinforced the depot with... Okay, this is important. So this is a Bersaglieri regiment. This is one of the better, one of the best, actually, Italian motorized units. Well-trained troops, highly motivated. He's pulled them back to defend the depot. If they're back here supporting their ground line of communications, they're not supporting the attack. So that in itself is currently helping. Let's think about the front in general. We're going to pull the 2nd Armored Brigade back into the rear towards Tobruk so it can rest and refit, get some replacements. And let's dig the... Let's see, so that's 8th Panzer, that's 5th Panzer. Okay, we'll dig in for the 201st Guards Motorized Brigade and the 1st Army Tank Brigade. Get some artillery support on them. Some more artillery support there. 4th South African can hold its current position. We're going to pull these elements of of this anti-aircraft regiment, which is 61st, and the 4th South African Armored Cars. We're going to pull them out. 4th South African Armored Cars will do it in reserve order, and we're going to bring 11th Indian Brigade directly into the line. I want to fortify, or consolidate rather, our positions on this wadi to make it more difficult for him to break through there, because I really want him to redirect his panzers literally anywhere else right now. I suspect he will probably take a whack at 22nd Armored Brigade this turn, so we're going to fortify them with artillery support. And we're going to put these guys in a reserve order. (32nd Army Tank Brigade). What do I want to do with you guys? So he's going to continue harassing the minefield. He's got his assault engineers up here, Kampfgruppe Kiel, which is a German captured equipment and sort of bits and pieces battle group there as well. But he doesn't really credibly have the force here to push. He's got the artillery, so he'll push in a few turns, but he doesn't really have the force to break through now. Might get Bir el Harmat though, so we'll keep that in mind. Okay, have these engineers move up to City Mufta. Keep working here on the improved position, which will be ready now in 4 turns. 42nd Royal Tank Regiment goes into reserve. He has abandoned the coastal roads, so I do not think that a major attack on Bir Cherson is likely. Okay, so to consolidate some thoughts here. We know he pulled one of the German infantry regiments off the road. We know he's too weak in the center to currently make an assault, a good one anyway. So I presume that regiment which has disappeared is redeploying. It's going to have to walk, so it's going to take it a couple turns. They're going to redeploy to the center, and he'll use the 361st Schutzen Regiment to make that push. So that tells us a little about where his head's at. And for the moment, we're going to bring C column down to the crossroads and stop column down to reinforce the City Mufta front. 3rd South African Recon goes into support. Get some fire on guys near Bir Gef. 124th Field Regiment, support them. I'm going to move DMR, which is a, I think it's the Midland Regiment. It's a Boer MG battalion, really. I'm going to move them up into the front near City Mufta. 32nd Army Tank Brigade's already doing reserve. I'm going to let Bir el Harmat hang for the moment because I'm actually going to have to abandon that position pretty soon anyway because he has compromised the box below it, the minefield box below it. And let's bring the anti-tank guns of 2nd South African up and park them. Let's actually park them at Bir el Harmat because everybody needs more AT guns. It's a universal truth when you're fighting the Germans. Get all the usual air support missions out of the way. And as for airstrikes, so that is, okay, there's 1st to the 18th Flak Regiment is there, so he does have Flak in support. He's also got Flak in support over here. So airstrikes at the front might be a little risky, but we're going to do it. And I've still got a couple bombardment missions as well. Let's dump them on some appealing Axis artillery. And dump it on the Africa Corps Supply Depot just out of pure spite. Okay, let's think. So I believe we have, according to the SITREP, yeah, I believe 104th Royal Horse Artillery Regiment has arrived. We'll bring them up. We have some more units here in the rear, but they're mostly locked down until, like, turn 10. Okay, get the final artillery mission set. 10th Indian Brigade holds its current position. Support them. Okay, I think we are good to go. Yep, set. Ah, some more artillery here I forgot about. Let's actually split this fire a bit. So let's take this 239th Anti-Tank Battery up and use it to reinforce the 4th South African, who will of course be holding the position alone while the armor is missing, recuperating. Get some more support on them. Get the medium guns firing on 7th Motor, or in support of 7th Motor. Get a reserve order there. 4th Royal Tank Regiment holds its ground. And we're good to go. Let's kick it. Yeah, he's going to hit the other armor brigade this turn. The question is, will he do credible damage? Yeah, I'd say he did credible damage. Okay. So let's check the overall losses. A bunch of French motorized infantry died because, okay, yeah, not surprised there. The 1st Free French Brigade got caught, being low on supply and all that. Now, what has happened here is we may have a chance to put 5th Panzer in an encirclement, but only if we can hold, if we can get something behind it, and if we can hold this position, which is ambitious, because that's a lot of force. Okay, that's not going to happen. Question is, did we... Yes, we successfully bagged, or at least we successfully hit the 605, although we did not destroy the unit. We inflicted some losses on it, and additional units who were supporting it. Well, first things first. So let's get our reinforcements marching. So the 10th Indian Division has arrived. We'll get them marching up towards the front. The motorized elements obviously can get a little further. 104th Royal Horse Artillery continues its journey to the front. 1st King's Dragoon Guards still have 1 full turn of supply on them, but I'm going to move them a hex southeast. Rest in peace, Frenchmen. You were very brave. Couple of attacks in the north. Oh, okay, and the 361st has returned on the north end, so they are not repositioning for an attack in the center. For the moment, I'm going to just put these units in reserve. C column sits in its current position. Stop columns arrived. What happened here? Some more skirmishing of no particular importance. Throw some more artillery there. Seventh Field Regiment supports them. 3rd Field Regiment on them. Okay, 6th Gordon Highland Regiment needs to fall back. Specifically, I'm actually having to fall back because I want to clear, I want just to have open ground behind the 22nd Armor Brigade in case it needs to retreat, which it is going to be retreating, so that's just a thing which is happening. Let me think about my immediate options here. So I think I need to abandon Bir Zaydan this turn because Bir Harmat will almost certainly fall. So Bir Zaydan force is going to move into concentration where these guys currently are. They'll move into the rear. I'm not too worried about surrendering sort of the southwest corner of the line because there's multiple interlocking minefields there, and even if he gets units through the minefield, which he will, supplying them will be difficult, and he's going to have to clear those minefields to create corridors to really pour through with. So I've got several turns I can waste by letting him through there. You guys continue to support Bir Harmat for now. I'm actually going to leave the troops who are in Bir Harmat there for the moment because I want them to buy time. I'll order the 22nd Armored Brigade out. They will fall back to a point of concentration west of Knightsbridge. Actually, I think we'll revisit that in a moment. Let's look at the rest of the south end of the line. So we're at maximum stacking here. That's obviously 5th Panzer. Let's get bombardment and airstrikes on 5th Panzer Division, or 5th Panzer Regiment, I should say. So tempted to put them in an encirclement, but I know I can't hold it, so I'm going to resist that urge. And let's bomb 8th Panzer Regiment because it exists, and I don't approve of that. Now, I'm actually going to consider living very dangerously. So how's 4th Brigade doing? Okay, not great, not terrible. I'm going to pull the 4th Armored Brigade out and loop it around south. I'll show you what I'm going to do here in a moment. So, wrong unit. You support them. So 4th Armor Brigade, this could be really bad. If he pivots and he built a fort on the other, he built an improved position on the other side of the wadi. If he pivots and he goes after 7th Motor Brigade, this goes really badly. So we're going to bring the 4th Royal Tank Regiment up to, okay, 10th Indian Brigade reinforces. The 4th Royal Tank Regiment comes up in reserve for combined arms. Wrong unit. Put it on the infantry. And 4th Armor Brigade is going to come around, down, over, and hit Sonderwehrbahn 288. Sonderwehrbahn 288 is currently defending on top of Assault Pan. This is probably a mistake. You probably didn't think about this. You don't want to defend on top of Assault Pans. They actually actively reduce the ability of the defender to fight. They're awful territory. Don't sit in them. And I'm going to see if I can inflict some casualties on SCB 288 this turn. And we'll throw 29th Indian Brigade in reserve. You guys in reserve as well. In fact, let's take the anti-tank battery, the 309, send them south. Indian Brigades hold their position. 1st Armored Tank Brigade holds its position. This retreat out of Bir el Harmat is very delicate because due to stacking limitations, they can't both retreat simultaneously, and the unit that gets left behind will probably die. And if I have to sacrifice a unit, I'm going to sacrifice the motorized infantry, not the tanks. So good luck, Frenchmen. Hopes and prayers, because you're going to need them. And the 22nd Armored Brigade falls back towards Knightsbridge. Get the South African HQ off the road for stacking reasons. 32nd Army Tank Brigade. What do I want to do with you? So you guys hold back to there. Medium artillery continues to... Actually, medium artillery can sit there and support, can't it? We'll throw what support we can on them just in case. Units at Bir el Harmat are sacrificial, so I'm not too worried about them. Move the 288th anti-tank into Knightsbridge itself. Get some fire support on 1st Army Tank Brigade. Just get the artillery plotted here. Okay. And I'll actually bring out the 12th Lancers and exchange them with 1st King's Dragoon Guards. King's Dragoon Guards are going to join the hasty attack on the Assault Band. Remember, the more hex sides you're attacking from, the higher your encirclement bonus, so that actually could be quite effective. Get our 1 recon mission in there. Get air support on 22nd Armor Brigade in case... Okay, already has air support, disregard. Get it on 4th Armor Brigade, and that's 5th Panzer, so we'll put it on 1st Armored Tank. Come back to Air Command, and let's get ready to task some guys here. So, 208 Squadron comes back into action. 145 Squadron comes back into action. 80 Squadron goes into rest. Rest 15 Squadron, which is Bomber Squadron. The real worry is the attrition on the Kitty Hawks, because the Kitty Hawks and the Tomahawks are doing all of our close support and our strike work, and as they get ground down, that's going to become a real issue, especially as he currently has a pretty strong Air Force himself. So, we're just going to have to make do with what we've got. And bring the 335 Squadron back in as well. So, final artillery orders. Let's actually start laying a minefield west of City Mufta, because I'm going to grief him with even more mines, because I'm sure that's exactly what he wants to deal with in his life. And do a final check for any artillery I have forgotten. Recon goes into reserve. Stop column holds its current position, but will probably head southeast next turn. 32nd Army Tank Brigade goes into reserve. And yeah, they're dead. Okay, what left to bomb? Oh, probably this lovely gaggle of artillery. Okay. Get them firing. And for combined arms purposes, we will throw one on Bir el Harmat, even if I don't expect to hold that position. And good luck. Yeah, French Brigade got destroyed. Not too surprised there. Okay, this turn, very bloody for all involved. 103 Axis points destroyed for 223 of our own. Obviously, the vast majority of those are French units, both lost in the desert and up here. Not terribly surprised there. 21 German tanks destroyed. Actually, it's looking closer to 29 because there's 7 more Panzer IIs and 2 more Panzer IIIJs. So German tank losses were not inconsiderable. Something to keep in mind in this scenario. On turn 9 as the Allies, we get 173 armored replacement points. The Axis gets, I think, maybe 20. Point being, we can replace lost tanks, they can't. So let's see what the situation is. Second Demi Brigade, Senegalese. I'm pretty sure we're going to find it was destroyed. Yeah, it was destroyed. Tragic, but not fatal. We withdrew from Bir Zaydan without incident. So what we're now going to do is we're going to consolidate the retreat. So the 5th Infantry is going to come up, and I'm going to support them. Not JB. JB needs to go to Knightsbridge. Okay, stop column. Stop column is going to come up and reinforce the 22nd Armored Brigade alongside the 5th GRH. Going to quickly strip stop column of what? It's artillery. And one basically short company of its infantry, who I'm going to use for purposes elsewhere. So stop column continues onwards. And then this very small, basically tactical group I created is going to actually come down northeast of Bir Zaydan. Okay, so otherwise, how's the situation? Let's do this from the south. So did we inflict? We did not really inflict much on SVB 288. We actually didn't get the 7th Armor. 4th Armor Brigade, rather, was not actually involved in the combat. It was only attacked by 29th and the 3rd because the armor got delayed by other things in the way en route. So we're going to make another swipe at it. You know, oh well, it happens. Get some armored cars out on its flank. Actually, we're going to hit them and then pull back because I don't want to get trapped down here. But I do want to force him to divert force. Okay, we are currently in supply here, so that's not a major concern. You guys screen down there. In order to gain a zone of control, we're going to deploy anti-aircraft just to increase the stacking value. Get these AA guns down to Bir el Gobi. Get the fire support port on there. Get some support on these guys. 4th Royal Tank Regiment goes into support. And, okay, so he hit us in the center, where the 1st Armored Tank Brigade is located, and this was actually very much in our favor. Losses aren't huge, but we did knock out several German tanks, and our losses of our own, you know, were slightly lower than his, so not bad. Another thing you'll notice, this is new actually in the new combat update, is if you knock out over half of the enemies, over 75% rather, of the enemies, or I should say, if you suppress over 75% of the enemy's armor, it actually reduces their combined arms modifier. So hyper concentration of anti-tank guns is more effective in the new update than it's ever been in the past. 22nd Armored Brigade holds its position, pour artillery support on them while they get support. You guys fire on them. You also fire on them. 6th Gordon Highland moves in with a reserve order. Pour the fire support on the 1st Army Tank Brigade. And on the 201st. 8th Panzer Regiment. I have a sneaking suspicion, you know, call it a hunch, that he's going to hit the 201st this turn, but he may also have a swipe at the 4th South African Infantry Brigade, because it does not have tank support, and he would be able to get combined arms, full combined arms, and it would not be able to. So that is a very real risk. Throw some more fire support on them. Throw the 6th Brigade in as reserve. In fact, I'm going to throw the 6th Brigade in reserve and move it west so it reserves both of these combats. First Royal Dragoons move up as reserve in order to support 4th South African. 2nd Armored Brigade continues to rest. I see we have a bit of a gaggle in rear here while 10th Indian Division's moving up. Oh well, it happens. I would really like 10th Indian Division to get here faster. They're kind of needed right now, but it is what it is. Fighting continues along the line of contact on the minefields. Get the artillery in. Okay, more support there. 32nd Army Tank. Actually, let's have 32nd Army Tank seriously consider moving up in a reserve order southwards. So let's just clear the stacking value down here because there's a lot of force in a small space. We'll have 32nd Army Tank move in reserve. Specifically, I want to make sure 22nd Armored Brigade is safe. Let's get the recon mission in. Also want recon in the south so I can see how he's responding to my flanking maneuver. And of course the all-important harassment of the artillery because we hate them. Get a strike mission on 8th Panzer, and now air support where it's needed most. So air support on, it might not be needed most on that, but definitely on 1st Army Tank, definitely on 22nd Armored Brigade, and because I really want to make this flanking maneuver actually worthwhile, on 4th Armored Brigade, although that may leave a vulnerability on the 11th Indian Infantry Brigade's position, but we'll see. Do a final check, see if there's anything left to task. As always, there is. Okay, he has submitted his turn. For the moment, we will complete ours. And I think we are good to go. Yep, here we go. Yeah, he's reacting to the maneuver in the south. But it looks like he may have successfully pinned us with his air attack, so we may not have actually got the attack off. But good news is, in terms of total losses this turn, this is starting to even out. 127 lost for 133 destroyed. In terms of our losses, let's see, the top is Bren carriers and 2-pound anti-tank guns. His top is rather amusingly mortars and Italian infantry, but there is some German armor in there as well. So let's see what happened in the battle. So there was a lot of fighting against the 1st Army Tank Brigade. This went both ways. In this case, we lost more in this hex, but we did definitely inflict some casualties on him as well. So some fierce fighting there. Some additional fighting around 22nd Armored Brigade. He obviously occupied Bir el Harmat this turn, which doesn't really surprise me. Yeah, and we got pinned and thus failed to engage SVB 288. So we're going to withdraw across the Wadi again. That flanking maneuver ultimately did not succeed. And we'll withdraw in the south as well. It'll be a fighting withdrawal, so we won't run away all the way this turn. Continue bringing up the 10th Indian Division. Okay. So now to settle back into the situation in the middle. So a big part of what we're doing as the Commonwealth player here is simply grinding the German units down. So at the beginning of fighting, the 155th Schützen Regiment was about a 450 or 480 or so combat value unit. It's now down to 208. The Germans have a qualitative advantage, but if you just grind them down through attrition, and you actually look at his losses, the actual losses of manpower haven't been that high. He's replacing them with his replacements. That's not an issue. But the cohesion's falling, and the more the cohesion falls, the more likely we'll be able to launch a successful counterattack in the future. And you'll also notice he's losing some specialist equipment. So the 15 centimeter SIG-33 self-propelled, these are, I believe, Sturmpanzer 2s, is their colloquial name, I believe in this case. Sorry, Sturmpanzer 2s or 3s, I forget exactly which one. He's lost 5 out of 6 in 707 SIG. So he's losing equipment which he's going to have a very hard time replacing, in addition to having units just ground down through cohesion loss. Panzer regiments are still going strong although the 5th Panzer Regiment's down to about half its cohesion. Also, critically, 1st to the 5th Panzer has lost all its Panzer IVs, so we're making some progress here, even if it seems grindingly slow. That's simply the nature of grinding down the German army in 1942. Fighting continues in the north, but this is going in our favor. Here's where he lost a bunch of his mortars, so he's really probably not going to get through there. He will likely break through south of Bir if given enough time, but kind of who cares. Throw in some more fire support just to waste his time there. We're probably getting to a point reasonably soon where we will need to withdraw some of the units in the north and replace them with fresh units. They're doing okay for now, but that will likely happen in, say, 4 to 5 turns. And we had a more considerable and actual, like, real attack across the wire southwest of City Mufta, which we repulsed pretty handily, honestly. We lost some anti-aircraft guns, but sacrifices must be made. And we inflicted some good losses. He has crossed the wire at Bir Zaydan, but again, he needs to secure a solid supply line. B Squadron of the 42nd Royal Tank will need to rest pretty soon here. Let's move C Squadron of the Lancers up into direct support. I would love to pull 22nd Armor Brigade back and just refit it, but obviously that's not necessarily going to be possible at the moment. And people who really need to be relieved, desperately need to be relieved even, is the 1st Army Tank Brigade and the 201st Guards Motorized Brigade. They really need a rest. And given one more turn, I think 2nd Armored Brigade can provide it. Question is, can they hold out for that long? I'm going to... This may sacrifice the unit, but I'm actually going to move the 6th Gordon Highlanders up just to create a zone of control lock in case he breaks this position. He will probably kill them next turn, but I want to buy time because I don't want to return 2nd Armored Brigade to combat this turn. I want to give them one more turn of rest. But we're getting there. And I'm going to throw basically everything I can possibly spare onto that stack this turn. 6th South African goes into reserve. 7th Motorized Brigade. Going to pull you guys into the center El Adem, and then they will group up with 2nd Armored Brigade next turn. They're pulling back 4th Armored Brigade. 4th Royal Tank Regiment goes into reserve. 7th Medium fires on 10th. Actually, 4th Royal Tank Regiment can move directly into the line at this point, because we're pulling the 7th Motorized out. Fire support on them, just in case they get caught. And we have no recon missions this turn, which means our recon missions got intercepted, which is rather tragic because I hate being blind. Bring back the 15th Squadron. In fact, actually, for the balance of the scenario, I'm actually going to put the aircraft on auto mode. Get some air support on the 10th, get air support definitely on the 1st, and air support on the 22nd. Bomb all the usual suspects. And where's his anti-aircraft? Okay, there's 1 battalion there. There's currently no... Oh yeah, 104th Schützen's really low on cohesion. There's currently no anti-aircraft forward supporting the Panzers. Not within direct support. Okay, so we got our air missions plotted there. The 124th support them. 67th Medium Regiment moves. Actually, they can actually hold position and fire. Get basically every gun we can possibly muster up to fire on the 1st Army Tank Brigade, because this is the most critical point in the line. If it folds, we have a real problem this turn, and it folding is a very realistic possibility. But we need, at this point, really to hold out for 2 more turns while 10th Indian Division gets into position. And once they're in position, I'm pretty confident that we could stop the Axis offensive. 4th Royal Horse Artillery moves up, put them in position on the east shoulder. South African armored cars go into reserve. Nothing, yeah, nothing in the rear I forgot about. Let's actually have 4th Tank Brigade, Armor Brigade withdraw and then move north. Okay, I think we're good to go. And there's more fighting, but no breakthrough. This is exactly what we want to see. And yes, so this is precisely what you want to see as the Allied player. You can absorb losses. Look at our replacements in the top. We have 90 squads of infantry in replacement now. These just arrived this turn. 175 tanks and 23 artillery pieces. We can replace losses, and the Axis are now at parity. They lost basically as much as we did, including 17 Panzer IIIHs, which is an entire Panzer company. This is starting to look, plus 8 Panzer IVs, 8 Panzer IIs. This is starting to look bad for the Germans. So let's take a look at the battlefield from the south. Let's pull the King's Dragoon Guards back. In fact, let's pull them into Bir el Gobi. 27th Light Anti-Aircraft can do the same because they're only here for zone of control reasons. I don't want to get them killed. Fire support on the boys in Bir el Gobi. Let's pull the 3rd Indian Motorized Brigade back into the rear. 20th Field Regiment supports the 29th. 104th Royal Horse Artillery supports the 10th Indian Brigade. The overly aggressive Panzer General in me really wants to continue to chew on his flanks, but I know I can't feasibly do that right now. He's actually brought in, so Kampfgruppe Hecker, which is a combination of Italian Marines, German commandos, and captured Crusaders and Sturmgeschütz 3s. That's a really fascinating unit. Captured 40mm cannons. Yeah, I'm not screwing with Kampfgruppe Hecker, so let's ignore that for the moment. 4th Armored Brigade is going to rest this turn because I want to absorb those sweet replacements. 7th Medium Regiment fires on 10th Indian Brigade. Yeah, get all the usual artillery orders in. 4th South African Recon goes in reserve. 1st Army Tank Brigade has held out to the edge of its capabilities. It is starting to actively collapse, like 54% cohesion. But the good news is it doesn't need to hold out any longer because 2nd Armored Brigade is coming back and will be relieving its position basically at the end of this turn, supported by 7th Motorized Brigade. 6th South African Brigade is going to similarly withdraw, although not as far. Let's have the Royal Dragoons actually move into the line. It's an armored car unit. And realistically, I shouldn't ask them to hold the line for one more turn, but I'm not sure I have much of a choice. God, there's so many Germans. No, I have to withdraw them. So they must fall back this turn. That's going to put a lot of pressure on 22nd Armored Brigade. I'm going to sacrifice the 6th Gordon Highland Regiment simply to waste his movement points, because I really need till the end of this turn to be ready to fill in these positions. 32nd Army Tank Brigade is going to move in and take the place of 22nd Armored Brigade. In fact, let's actually stage a tactical withdrawal in the south. So we're going to 32nd Army Tank Brigade is going to retreat to there. 22nd Armored Brigade will fall back into the rear where it will recuperate. Stop column will fall back 1 hex. 5th, I believe, I forgot what GRH is in this case, I forget which regiment they're from. They're going to move northeast for zone of control continuity. The 287th will move back and around. The 6th anti-tank will move into the rear for recovery. The 7th South African Reconnaissance Battalion moves into the rear in reserve. And I realistically should fall back with these guys, but I might want to do it next turn just so I avoid a confusing situation with zone of control. So what I'll do is I'll leave a blocking force and I'll pull the HQ of the 150th Brigade into the rear and sort them out next turn. There's also a pretty substantial attack, or series of small attacks, I should say, at City Mufta. He is starting to make progress there. So let's throw let's throw the anti-aircraft guns in. Have the artillery continue firing where it really counts. Yeah, they're set. Let's Let's bring down C Squadron, 3rd South African Reconnaissance, throw them into the line. Let's bring down some more artillery support. Because it's fairly unlikely he's going to break through any of these boxes. In fact, do I want to? Yes, I want to pull the 9th Durham Light Infantry out into the rear. He can have this corner for all I care, whatever. They go into reserve, they go into reserve, again, reserve or put them in the front? No. 2nd Regiment Botha is going to move up into the front. C column continues to remain in reserve. Seventh Field Regiment fires on 3rd South African. You always have to be careful when you're staging these multi-part retreats that you don't accidentally retreat into other units and create road jams, which lead to lots of people dying. Happened historically, it happens in Chaos. Just be careful when you're retreating. Actually, just make sure we're staying on the road there. So, 10th Indian Infantry Division arrives at El Adem at the end of this turn, which is going to put 3 more brigades of infantry in the face of the advancing Axis forces. So I'm feeling pretty good about our odds, honestly. We'll bring up the 97th Field Regiment, have them fire on the 1st Army Tank Brigade as they withdraw. Or I should say fire in support of. Fire on makes it sound like I'm authorizing a blue-on-blue shooting. Get support on 4th South African. And we'll send the 20th and 25th. They'll deploy ultimately to El Adem, but then into the sort of the Knightsbridge Gap east of it. And the 21st Brigade will actually prepare ultimately to move south, probably to backstop the elements of the 5th Indian Division on the Wadi. 4th Armored Brigade's resting. 4th Field Regiment needs to fire in support of 9th. Let's get all the usual bombing missions in, although I see several of our bombing missions were intercepted this turn. Yeah, German Army, the Axis Army, I should say, is starting to look pretty yellow in its cohesion. So I am, so far, feeling pretty safe. And out of pure spite, I'm going to bomb Conf Group Hecker. And we are short on air support this turn, so good luck, guys. Yeah, because our Air Force is currently... Desert Air Force is not doing great right now. Okay, there is no anti-aircraft supporting 8th Panzer Regiment, so let's remove some more of Rommel's toys. Okay, I think everyone who matters has been tasked. Yeah, I'm also going to pull forces out of the Bir Fakrun box because I have a zone of control locked from these forces and these guys, and I want to free up force to deploy into City Mufta. Okay, one more air support. Where's it going? Probably on 22nd Armored Brigade as it withdraws. Actually, so... I'm going to put it on stop column. Because 22nd Armored Brigade will probably withdraw without issue. Stop column is more likely to get caught. And then to that end, we'll bomb the guys in Bir Fakrun. And actually, in order to help avoid stacking issues, I'm going to have the 32nd Armored Tank Brigade actually head deeper as it retreats. Okay. Here we go. How will our withdrawal go? The answer is not a lot's withdrawing, because he pinned a bunch of it, which is well done on his part. Yeah, that was a bloody withdrawal. Okay, so I'm going to guess we lost 1st Army Tank Brigade. Yeah, almost certainly lost it. So let's look at losses. Yeah, 1st Army Tank Brigade got annihilated. Very much turned in his favor this turn. But we are ready to get new units in the line. So 6th South African will withdraw. 2nd Armored Brigade will move up to take their position. I actually want 6th South Africa withdraw northwest. 97th Field Regiment will support. Okay, 201st Guards needs to get away to the rear. Typically, when you stage these retreats, you obviously have more time to think about it when you're doing it, and also talking. You don't entirely think things through. So, 2nd Armor Brigade moves up. 2nd South, okay, 201st withdraws that direction. 6th Gordon Highlands shockingly survived. I honestly didn't expect that. 22nd Armor Brigade moves into the rear, probably at a Krama, where it will absorb replacements. 32nd Army Tank Brigade is in position. 287 will actually withdraw in a reserve order. You two move back. You retreat. Unless I want to live dangerously. Oh, we'll think about that. I may be able to hold them up for another turn there, but I'm not really sure there's a point in doing it either. So, 27th Anti-Aircraft withdraws into Bir el Gobi. 3rd Field Regiment fires on them. 3rd Indian Motorized Brigade is now going to move into the desert as a screening force against any maneuver around the flank. This will probably be our last turn for the day, but let me get everything plotted. Okay, yeah, so we're drawing there. 4th South African holds its ground. Let's throw some fire support on it. And of course, the elements of 10th Indian Division are now getting into action. So 20th Indian Infantry Brigade is going to come up as a immediate reserve to the fighting near Knightsbridge. 25th Indian Brigade will hang west of El Adem as backup in case there's any unexpected circumstance, and the 21st Brigade is going to become the reserve in sort of the eastern operational area. So we'll have a pretty good amount of force coming up there. Also got its divisional engineers we could be using. Minefield City Mufta finishes in 2 turns. Okay. Yeah, I expect to break through. Okay, so let's take the B Squadron, 42nd RTR, and send them back. Because he is starting to pile on. I mean, he's taking losses doing this as well, but he is starting to degrade the forces southwest of City Mufta. Okay, yeah, that ends it. I was thinking about saying at Bir el Harmat just to keep this sort of zone of control lock along this track, but if this position falls on our flank, we're in a partial envelopment. I don't want to risk that, so I won't live dangerously there. Let's bring down the 9th Durham Light Infantry, and they will ultimately they'll take the place of the 4th East Yorkshire Regiment of the 150th Brigade. So 4th East Yorkshire will move up to southwest City Mufta. 9th Durham Light Infantry takes their place. Get some fire support on these guys. .42nd RTR goes into reserve. How is the North doing? The answer is quite well. We lost four squads, 2 AT guns in this case, and killed a smattering of German and Italian personnel. So I'd say the North this entire game has actually done pretty well. Get all the usual fire support up there. Okay. As an insurance, let's get this 69th Infantry Brigade, but it's actually only the 5th East Yorkshire Regiment. Get them up west of City Mufta. I'm going to just keep them there for 1 turn. They're only going there in case this position falls. So these guys move into the position. They move on to the flank of the position. The 2nd Cheshire MGs and the 25th Flight Anti-Aircraft hang around as sort of just reserve. Get some more fire support on them. This entire group is falling back 1 hex. This group falls back 1 hex. 6th Gordon Highland, I'm actually going to say you guys fall back into the Knightsbridge box, just so we can exert zone of control there. 68th Medium Regiment supports them. Okay. So far, so good. Yeah, that was that painful loss of the 1st Army Tank Brigade. You guys are retreating. You're holding your ground until you rendezvous with the 2nd Armored Brigade. 4th South African Armored Corps goes into reserve. Artillery, start dumping artillery fire support on the Indians. 4th Armored Brigade is resting for this turn. As you can see, we had 175, 176 armored replacements. We've already used about 30, just over 30 of them. Okay. Okay, 2nd and 3rd Gurkhas, which is a battalion, 157th Field Regiment, move up to El Aden. There'll be further reserve in the rear. And let's get those recon missions down. Particularly interested actually in where the Africa Corps supply depot is, so we will send a recon mission out there. Get bombs on, because we only have 2 bombing missions this turn, let's get it on the Panzers. Okay, last fire mission. And we're good. Let's see what happens. So turn 10, final turn we're going to be playing today. Italian Armored Advance on the Knightsbridge front. But otherwise, fairly uneventful. So we took some losses, he took some losses as well. Not terribly shocking there. Okay, we should be ready for the debriefing in a moment here. Just waiting for Joe to get back on. Welcome back.
All right, welcome back indeed. That was a good game.
Indeed it was. So first, for some background for our audience, this is actually our 2nd recording. In the first game we recorded, which was on the Sunday before this gets posted, Joe and I played a game. We'd done like no preparations. Like the first time we played the new Gazala scenario, and I got massacred. Like if he was playing the Axis, I was playing the Allies. And some of you may have noticed, some of you who are familiar with the battle, I used a strategy which was very unlike what the British historically did. I fell back immediately. I didn't try to fight forward in the south, because in the first game we played, I got my British armor into concentration, and I went force on force against the German Panzers, and it was about as good an idea as it sounded. It was terrible. It was a disaster. So this strategy I chose in this game was a direct response to that, and I chose to be really flexible, defend in depth, waste your time, and yeah, although I think it's far too early to call this game, this could definitely still go either way.
Yep.
In terms of wasting the Axis player's time, that was highly effective.
Yeah, I agree. I was frustrated at the south for a little while, but countering your flanking move actually freed up a lot of units for me. And they were just about to head north to give the Panzers a break.
The flanking move. So I thought I was going to, because SVB 288 was defending on a salt flat, which isn't great because obviously you get a reduction there. But I was thinking, okay, so I'm just going to run the 4th Armored Brigade down there, and with some support from the Indian Brigade and a couple other things, I'm going to quickly snipe this unit. Well, you see, the flaw in my logic was assuming that I was going to kill German commandos quickly. That didn't happen.
Yeah, you also you timed that a little poorly, because that was right as Kampfgruppe Hecker arrived.
Yeah, I was hoping that I'd be able to take advantage of the unfortunate demise of the French, who had... I suspected the lack of a garrison outside Bir Hakeim was probably a trap, but as we discussed in our first game when we played this, having units sit in Bir Hakeim doesn't help either, so I just ran for it to see if I could get out. It didn't work.
Yeah, I made sure to have stuff ready on all 3 sides. Yeah. Fortunately, I had some units in the south area of operations that were freed up after the recent offensives and got kind of left behind, so I had a few units to spare. Plus, those French were out of supply for a while at that point.
Yeah, I was hoping to take advantage of the couple turns it took to digest that delicious French meal, to knock out SVB 288. That wasn't a success. That said, I didn't really take much in the way of meaningful losses from it either. It was just sort of wasted time. The really important part of the fighting was the fighting in the center.
Right about City Mufta.
Yeah, right around City Mufta. Oh, and rather east of Bir el Harmat, the armored fighting.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, there was a couple turns ago. I forget which fight it was. There was something like 30 German tanks knocked out in one turn, and for the German player, that hurts.
Yep, I saw that, and that's why this past turn I pretty much called an operational pause, where I was going to break for a bit and push on the western edge of that front, so you couldn't push the Panzers at all, because I had just enough force to keep pushing you back there. But yeah, I was going to have the Panzers and the Panzer Grenadiers hold off for a little bit and rest up.
Yeah.
Since I knew I got to turn 9, I knew you were going to get some points back too, so I had to take that moment.
Yeah, I was feeling actually really confident, and then the First Army Tank Brigade sadly was killed, completely destroyed while attempting to withdraw. And it was like that.
Ooh.
I feel that loss. It was like 83 Valentines.
Yep, I saw that, and I had to try and go for it because I knew it was real low. There were 2 real low there, and I got 1, which is not bad.
Yeah, the big this is always a concern when you're playing the British. The infantry tanks, the Matildas, the Valentines, they move at obviously they're infantry tanks. They're not fast, and they move at a slower rate than motorized or like cruiser tanks do. So what happened there is the 201st Guards Motorized Brigade and the 1st Army Tank Brigade were supposed to be withdrawing together, but the 1st Army Tank Brigade fell behind, and it was brutal.
Yeah, that was reminiscent of the first game. One of those battles there.
Yeah, that was painful. Now, what I was able to do is I was able to buy time for you can probably see them, the 2nd Armored Brigade and the 7th Motorized Brigade, southeast of Knightsbridge.
Oh yeah.
I bought time for them because that unit actually was the first armored unit you engaged. I withdrew it around, I want to say turn 6 or so, and had it recuperating, and it just returned to combat. And it's relatively fresh, and obviously I don't expect it to push, but I do expect this line to hold.
Yeah, you did a good job frustrating me because once again I wanted to do sort of the same plan as last time and hit those tanks, and didn't work out as well. Although I did get the crossroads that I wanted. I was so glad I got that fort up right around when you attacked with those tanks. I knew you were going to do it, so I had to throw a fort up because I was not going to spare the Panzers to deal with that.
Yeah, that fort is highly unfortunate because it's a fort defended by 88s and Pioneers, and I'm not getting in there.
Yep, that's That gave me a lot of confidence to just keep moving forward, just getting that point figured out. And then once the flank was fully secure, like, okay, yeah, I got time.
Yeah, and we'll see what what development schedules and the like, because obviously we're doing the update release this week. We'll see what development schedules permit, because I would be happy actually to play this one out either to the end or at least to another 10 turns, like later next week or something, because this one could still realistically go either way. The German armor is cohesion banged up, but you still have a lot of German tanks. And
that's why I'm gonna
or motor I should say, you will replace.
Yeah, one of them's already rested a full turn. I'm gonna wait till they go all the way up because I have the time and space at this point. And the breakthrough at CD Mufta looks real close.
Yeah,
although there's some stuff there, but I think it will happen.
I suspect it will because let's see, look at current situation. B Squadron of the 42nd Royal Tank Regiment, which is providing the tank support. Well, there's 8 tanks left, so there isn't exactly much supporting going on.
Yeah.
The biggest advantage I was able to leverage was simply I was able, with the exception of the 2 artillery regiments who got killed in the initial retreat, which was tragic. But with the exception of them, I managed to keep the British artillery effectively entirely intact.
Yeah, I noticed that. You had a big artillery ball south of El Adem.
Yeah.
I did not want to go near that, but kind of have to clear that ridge.
Yeah, what I'm currently banking on as the British is, I know, obviously, as the scenario designer, that your Axis bombers, you probably, don't tell me because obviously we're going to continue this game, but this is just my speculation, is you probably have 2 squadrons operational and only one of them is currently running missions. So because the other's likely in maintenance by turn 11. So you can either bomb my tanks or you can bomb my artillery. You can't do both.
Oh yeah, I didn't bother bombing the artillery at all. I just went after tanks and infantry.
Yeah, and in
because
general,
I just wanted to clear the way.
yeah, and in general, when you're playing the Germans in the desert, that's typically the best answer because British artillery, there's a lot of it. And unless the British player is so kind as to put like 4 regiments in one hex, you're usually better served hitting the tanks than you are hitting the arty. But of course, the downside being um, the artillery is basically just firing uninterrupted.
That's true. I gambled on that just to see if I could put up better numbers. It didn't work out quite as well as I wanted to. I took a lot more losses than I
Mm-hmm.
wanted, but that's war for you.
Yeah, you are. Look at the last combat southwest of City Mufta. That has been so bloody. I mean, I don't. The thing that's been interesting about that battle is this is the first like actual main quote attack you've made. All the other attacks have been hasty assaults, so it's been like 5 dead squads there, 3 dead squads here, but like 4 per turn. So it's been a lot of low intensity fighting, and now it's finally ramped up into an actual direct assault.
Yeah, yeah. I wanted to push that turn because I was going to move. Who are these guys? The 65th Motor Regiment, the Italians that
Mm-hmm.
were in Bir Zaidan. I was going to move that into that ball there that I was assuming was in a reserve order, and I was hoping to catch them off
Oh yeah, it
guard.
wasn't. That ball is that ball is the former Bir Zaydan garrison, and it is
Yeah,
just random stuff.
yeah. I saw that. I was like, maybe I could cause some damage.
Yeah, that the interesting. I was looking at that. I was thinking I really want to attack the 65th motorized infantry regiment because it's out. It's completely out of supply. But obviously I can't because its flank is secured by elements of the 90th League Africa Division, and I'm not putting myself in an exposed position with Germans on my flank.
Yeah, yeah. That was a risky move on my point. Just on my part, just even going to Bir Zaidan, but I wanted to try something to force CD move to.
Well, yeah, and ultimately there is no easy way to get across a minefield. You just sort of have to
Nope.
to get across and then build the supply bridge to clear the minefields behind yourself. But you have to get there. And if you simply let the opponent defend on the wire for the entire time, you're never going to get through. So you have to take a gamble at some point.
Yeah, exactly. And I just kept up relentless attacks near Beard Jeff. That's close to falling, and I haven't taken too much damage over there. I was feeling really good about that access.
So the funny thing about the sort of the northern axis of this advance, this should be kind of interesting to me, is I'm pretty sure. Well, just recap. So currently I have 0 infantry replacements left and 0 artillery. I'm guessing you're the same.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure all of our infantry replacements have been. I'm not going to say wasted because they weren't wasted, but I'm pretty sure most of them are going into that fighting.
Oh yeah. It's been completely brutal. Beer Jeff has been going on 11 straight turns. I've been alternating attacks between Beer Kherson and southwest of it. Caused a lot of damage southwest of it, but got almost no attacks off on the city itself.
Yeah, yeah, it's been. So actually, if I look at like the Second South African Infantry Brigade, which is 1 hex southwest Bir Kherson, its units are at like almost full strength, but because they're receiving ongoing replacements, but their cohesion is bad.
Yeah, once I saw the cohesion going down, I'm like, all right, I can't let up. I'm getting some retreats on my side, but no, press onwards.
Yeah, in fact, the best example is if you look at Second South African, you can see how obviously this unit's been sucking up a lot of replacements, and the evidence is actually the engineers attached to it, because the engineers have 1 of 9 squads left because there's a smaller unit. They're lower in the replacement priority list. So the engineers they will probably be destroyed next turn, and the infantry's just eating replacements.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's been a meat grinder for both sides.
And shout out to the 6th Gordon Highlanders, that lone infantry battalion. I used the waste movement points in the middle. They did their job.
Yeah, that they did.
The interesting thing actually about this fighting is as this game develops, the Knightsbridge box is actually going to be incredibly important because it's going to put you in a really uncomfortable position as you advance northwards because you will continue to move northwest pretty reliably once you get force there. But the Knightsbridge box is going to be a zone of control um,
Problem.
problem right in the middle of your
Yeah.
axis of maneuver. So you're either going to have to blow out the west by city move to decisively, which isn't impossible. There's a lot of stuff there, but it could be done theoretically, or you're going to have to go right through the Knightsbridge box, which is going to be a mess because that's easy for me to defend.
Yeah, I really don't want to, and I really don't want to get a unit stuck in that for a turn, even if
Yes.
I take it. So that I kept looking at that over and over. I'm like, what am I going to do about this? And basically, my conclusion was, yeah, like you said, I'm going to hit west as hard as I can and just secure that side and try
Yeah.
to get a full surround on it.
Yeah, and that's probably ultimately, as if I were playing the Axis, if I were in your situation, I would probably go with the full northwest push, because if you can push the Axis, or so you can push the Allies, the Commonwealth, off the wire at City Mufta with your armor, and then force the battle effectively into an east-west battle, like with Akroma as the northern anchor of my line, that's a battle which you have a much better chance of winning in the long run, because the problem you're going to run into, if you head northeast, east of Knightsbridge, then your west is hanging, and that's not acceptable. And if you
Yeah,
push
no.
directly east, I've got more tanks than you do.
Yeah, no, no. Plus, the terrain is awful. That's
No.
just not going to work or happen.
Yeah, because your flank will be hanging. So yeah, your best bet probably is simply to go for the city moves route and try to inflict mass casualties. And if you get really lucky, you might actually get a breakthrough and actually kill some of those like the medium artillery I've got, and that would be great for the Axis.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's the goal. That's what I want to do. But forces around CD Mufta, both of ours are close to shambles.
Yeah, I mean, I've
One
got
way
some
to put it.
stacks that look impressive until you actually look at what they're made out of, and it's like found parts, leftover units, battle groups made out of random garrisons.
Yeah, Camp Group Akil has taken a lot of cohesion damage and some equipment losses. Yeah, the Panzer 3H losses. Even though it was two, that makes up quite a lot of the power.
Yeah. Oh, let's see. Is Kiel? I mean, they may actually not currently be in my line of sight. Oh,
They're just south. They're at the contact line at CD Mufta.
oh, okay. They're on the other side of the wire. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, that unit's like 160 assault points to start with. Is like half its strength
Yep.
gone.
It's a half now, but if I can create a breakthrough, I could funnel some more stuff in and rest it up for a turn or three.
Yeah, and as we mentioned earlier, as the Axe player, you have that time because you still have 19 more turns, and
Mm-hmm.
on turn 20, so in 9 turns, another Italian armored division arrives.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be so huge.
Now it's at partial strength. It's the 133rd. It's at partial strength, and it's not. It's only trained quality, but still, it is tanks. It exists, and you can put it in my face, and that's really all you need.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I want. Something to just assist the main attacking force in the Fifth Panzer Regiment. What's the other one? These guys are just so important. The Eighth Panzer Regiment, just so important, and keep their shoots and regiments alive with them. As long as those can hold out the whole game, I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, the long game here, the Axis very definitely has in the short term, it's very much the Allies' game, but in the long term, Axis has a real chance here, especially if you will take City Mufta. That's it will eventually fall, whether it's 5 turns or 10 turns, you will take it, and then you'll be able to put a corridor through the minefield and bring in the 133rd Division, who arrive. See that track which runs West City Mufta at the map edge? They arrive on that
Yep.
track.
Oh wow.
And you can just drive them through that gap, and you'll suddenly have another armored division in action. Basically in the center of the line.
Yeah, yeah, that would be ideal. That's ultimately what I want. Just yeah, basically open up that highway and get stuff moving.
Yeah, because for some for reference for both for yourself and for the audience, on turn 9 I got 100. I think it's 175 armored replacements. It's turn 11, and I've used about 98 of those.
Ooh.
So, uh, as the British player at the current rate of loss, I will use all of my armored replacements in this battle. And while I have substantially more armored replacements than you do, still, there's going to come a point where I run out of tanks, and you have another armored division coming. So,
Yeah, yeah, that's the huge thing to consider as the Access player. You have to degrade the British armor. I
yeah,
mean, that's your key to victory.
yeah. If you can destroy the units, as in completely eliminate them so they can't be reinforced, those are major victories. Just as for the Allied player, the thing you actually really want to kill is not the Panzer regiments, which would be great, but it's usually not realistic to kill them, but actually to kill the Schutzen regiments. Because tanks operating without motorized infantry, especially without really good motorized infantry, they're vulnerable. So those are sort of the golden geese.
Yeah, one of them got shot down to medium cohesion pretty early on, and that was concerning.
Yeah, I think it's the 115th because it's currently sitting about 239 combat power.
Yeah, that's the one that's
Oh, the
enjoying its
104th
shell.
is even worse. 163.
Yeah.
In fact, the 104th has lost its self-propelled artillery support, which that's comes with the territory, but is what it is.
Yeah, as long as the infantry's still there, I just need guys around these tanks. Get that combined arms bonus and push those tanks even further.
Another big difference compared to what I did last time is in the last time we played this, there was a German armored recon unit harassing my airfields over
There was
here.
two.
Two of them, right? Yeah, and I had to like waste forces to go chase them down, and he was trying to take the Capuzzo railhead supply point, and it was a whole saga. This time I decided to put armored cars in the desert. Turn 2, we're not doing that again.
Oh yeah, I had a feeling I wasn't going to be allowed somewhat unfettered access, so instead I put AT guns in those recon regiments and got them ready.
Yeah.
I was expecting you to eventually try a hook to flank me there, and it happened.
Yeah, SPV 288. They lived up to their reputation. I'm not even sure I really did much damage to them. To be honest,
I moved them up to the front. Where are they?
they're currently co-stacked with 8th Panzer Regiment. They're providing info.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there they are. Yep, they didn't loot. They didn't take much damage at all. They lost a single MG infantry. That's it.
Well, and whatever damage they otherwise had, but at this point has been replaced.
Yeah. Once I saw that salt pad, because you moved that one unit just north of it, and I was like, yeah, I think I'm gonna hold at the salt pad.
Yeah. There's tanks coming.
Oh yeah, then I saw the tanks. I was like, okay, I gotta respond to that.
But yeah, I look forward to continuing this, and so we'll get this up on YouTube. Get it out there for the community to see, and I look forward to both continuing this. Another thing which Joe and I discussed along with some of our other senior beta testers is actually basically casting games to take a game between two players, and then either Joe or myself or both of us would commentate on it effectively as it happens. So you can sort of see how a battle unfolds between two players, which is obviously what we're doing here. So you can. Development schedule's allowing. We hope to get a lot more of that done. We'll see what we can get to.
That sounds like a great idea.
But for
Looking
now,
forward to it.
very good game, and I look forward to finishing this, whether it's on camera or not, because we are not done yet.
Absolutely. I feel like there's a lot in store.
I look forward. I aim to do better than historical and not lose. So hopefully this doesn't end with 40 to 50,000 Commonwealth troops trapped in Tobruk. I aim to avoid that. So we shall see. But for now, good game. We shall continue later.
Absolutely. Good game and looking forward to it.
Take care, everyone.